July 3rd, 2025. I've been in the water most of my life. Served 10 years as a Navy sub-operator, 3 years freelance deep salvage, and another 5 running ghost jobs for energy companies who didn't want their names on the paperwork. But this one felt wrong from the start. A private contract came through an encrypted channel. No name, no flag, just a 7-digit retainer wired to my offshore account. It came with coordinates off the southeastern coast of Madagascar and a brief, structural anomaly survey. Deep sea entry required. Hazard bonus negotiable. Hazard bonus. That phrase always means, don't ask too many questions. We flew out, under cover of night. No customs, no cargo manifest. The client had a rep meet us at the airstrip, a man who introduced himself as Jonas Reed. Clean-shaven, pressed white shirt, eyes like polished glass. He owned a company called Blue Energy. I'd heard whispers offshore drilling, black ops salvage, even rumors of deep-sea mining in restricted zones. None of it traceable. Reed handed me a satellite tablet with schematics of a sunken rig, Rig 7B, marked 200 meters below sea level, unregistered, unmapped, scrubbed clean from all databases. They didn't want a salvage op, they wanted silence. I was the last addition to their team. The others were already aboard the mother ship, the Revenant, a retrofitted Norwegian support vessel, bristling with illegal tech. There were 5 of us, Dr. Celia Grant, oceanographer, and AI ecologist. Quiet, sharp, too smart to be here, unless she was chasing something. Eric Flint, ex-Navy SEAL, now working private security. His handshake was a warning. Dana Reyes, sonar tech, drone pilot, and coffee addict. She didn't blink once in the chopper ride. Jonas Reed, client, CEO, and full-time liar. And me, Ray Calder, ex-Navy, sub-operator, now apparently a glorified grave diver. They said we'd only be under for 2 days. We were down there for 5. And not one of us came back the same. July 4th, 2025, the dive started smooth. Reyes launched her ROV first, a sleek, octopus-like drone she called Tango. It mapped the approach and fed data back to our onboard systems. I piloted the submersible Redback, a 3-seater with reinforced glass blacked-out registry and custom pressure dampeners I hadn't seen outside of military tech. Visibility dropped as we passed 120 meters. Algae, silt, and something else like thick smoke suspended in the water. Celia called it biohaze. I called it unnatural. Rig 7B came into view, or rather, what was left of it. It wasn't just a collapsed structure. It was a maze of scaffolding, steel arches, and half-melted walls. The sonar pinged strange harmonics, like echoes in a tunnel. Dana thought it was just the metal resonating, but the deeper we scanned, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a rig. This was a front for something else. Then we saw them. Sharks. Dozens of tiger sharks. At first, they circled like scavengers. Then I noticed the glint. Implants, small subdermal nodes just beneath the eyes, flashing in sync with our sonar pulses. They weren't circling randomly. They were patrolling. Eric whispered, Jesus, they're trained. Celia stared at the sonar. No, they're guided, remote, linked. Jonas looked too calm, too silent. I should have turned us around right then. We emerged into a massive chamber, a dome structure made from a hybrid of metal and coral. Lights pulsed within, powered by something far beyond diesel generators. Inside, stacked crates, sealed tanks, rows of sealed cases, unlabeled. But I've been around long enough to know drug containment tech when I see it. Jonas finally spoke. This is the future. Logistics without borders. Distribution without customs. We've automated the ocean. Celia's voice was cold. You're trafficking. He didn't deny it. The sharks, the tech, the rig. It was all a front for a mafia-funded underwater distribution network. Ships dropped at sea. Sharks guarded the zone. Drones moved the product. No human hands. No witnesses. Except us. Then something changed in the current. Tango's feed went dark, and a new shape entered the sonar. It wasn't a shark. It wasn't anything natural. The sonar painted it slowly, wide, curved, breathing, like a living fortress, moving through the deep, as if the ocean itself had taken form. We froze. Jonas backed toward the exit hatch, muttering to himself. Celia grabbed my arm. That's not part of any logistics chain. Dana checked her screen twice. It's not broadcasting any signal. Then the lights in the dome turned blue, not from inside, but from the creature itself. Everything started vibrating. The sub's hull, the walls of the dome, even the water around us. And then a pulse, like a sonic boom through the deep. The crates burst open. White powder clouded the water. Not drugs, something alive inside the powder. It shimmered and dispersed like spores, spreading, blooming into threads, wrapping around the shark implants like tendrils. Celia shouted, "It's taking over the control system." We were no longer dealing with a cartel. We were standing inside a hive, and the hive was waking up. We called it that because it didn't register like any current should. It pulsed, moved against gravity, and it didn't displace the water. It bent it. The sonar readings looked like a heartbeat with no source. It circled the dome, tight, methodical, as if scanning or waiting. Then the dome lights flickered. One by one, the interior pulses dimmed into a deep red, like blood swirling in water. The pressure sensors on the redback started spiking, not from external force, but from resonance. The water around us, hummed. One of the crates, one of the larger ones along the dome's edge, hissed. Valves released a stream of tiny bubbles, the cryolock system disengaging. Not a mechanical failure. A command. Eric tightened his grip on the rail. That's not supposed to happen. The crate opened on inside. Not drugs, not weapons, not equipment, but something alive, floating, in thick, translucent gel, suspended like a relic in amber, was a figure. Humanoid, but only just. Long limbs, webbed digits. Skin so pale it bordered on clear, like jellyfish flesh stretched thin over bone and sinew. No gills, no mask, just eyes closed. We all stared, stunned into silence. Then its eyes opened black, lidless, not glowing, but reflecting, as if we were staring into the ocean itself. I whispered, "Celia, what the hell is that?" She didn't answer. She was frozen, lips parted, eyes locked on the thing in the tank. Jonas, still seated at the console, leaned forward and said almost reverently, "They said it was myth, that the trench species never made surface contact, but it's real." That's when I realized he knew. He'd known all along. The currents thickened, wrapping the dome in distortion. Objects outside the sub started to warp the crates, the walls. Even the light beams bent like they were being sucked toward the center. Tango's feed cut to static. Dana shouted, trying to reboot, her hands shaking. Then the sharks moved, fast, coordinated. Two slammed the sub from opposite sides. The redback rattled. I barely kept it stable. One lunged toward the ROV, snapping the tether in a single bite. Sparks danced through the water. The feedback shorted our comms. "Surface, now," Eric yelled, voice raw. He unbuckled and moved toward the manual ballast override. We're not waiting for permission. But before I could punch the ascent controls, the thing in the tank smiled, and the entire dome groaned. A sound like metal and bone cracking at once. The humanoid's hand twitched. The cryogel boiled. The lights inside the dome surged and burst, casting everything into darkness lit only by emergency red strobes. A third shark hit us, this time ramming the starboard thruster. The alarm blared. Navigation compromised. Dana screamed, "It's manipulating the current. It's bending gravity. That thing is controlling the water." Celia whispered, almost inaudible, "It's not alone." She pointed to the sonar. More. Signatures. At least 3. No 5. All around us. The dome was not a lab. It was a vault, and we had just triggered its release protocol. Eric yanked the override. We're leaving now. The ballast tanks purged. The redback shuddered as compressed air launched us upward. We scraped through the tunnel, sharks nipping at the frame, one even trying to wedge itself into the narrowing gap. But just before we breached the tunnel's top, the water above us vanished. No, it bent around an invisible sphere, hovering. Above the dome, slowly rising like a god from a crypt, was the humanoid figure. Its skin shimmered like oil, and its mouth opened, not to breathe, but to sing, low, deep, resonant. The sharks stopped, dead still, then turned, and began circling the figure. Jonas muttered something under his breath. I caught 2 words, the warden. I turned to him. What did you do? His eyes didn't blink. I didn't build this. I just found it. Then the ascent completed, and the trench disappeared below us, shrouded in flickering red and growing silence. But even now, I can still hear that song in my bones, in the currents, in my sleep, and that smile, that impossible, knowing smile. It wasn't the first time it had seen us. We made it out of the dome by slamming the thrusters full throttle and disrupting the sharks with an emergency sonar burst. It bought us 30 seconds, no more, enough to clear the tunnel. Barely. Behind us, the sonar flared in erratic waves. The dome didn't just collapse, it imploded in slow motion. Not from pressure, but from inside, like something in it had awakened, and then moved on. There were no explosions, no seismic readings, just silence. That heavy, wrong kind of silence that makes you feel like you're not alone. The lights on Redback flickered. Our battery gauge dipped, then surged. Static crept into the comms channel. It wasn't interference. It was a pattern, a pulse, a signal too complex to be random. Back on the Revenant, no one spoke for a long time. Celia was pale and shivering despite the thermal gear. Her eyes were unfocused, like she'd seen something her mind was trying to erase. Dana curled into a corner of the sonar bay, crying silently. A shaky hand clamped over her mouth. Eric paced the deck with his sidearm drawn. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't offer comfort. He was looking for something to shoot, or maybe just something solid to believe in. And Jonas? Jonas locked himself in the communications room. When I finally pried open the hatch, I saw him hunched over the terminal, not saving data, not documenting our escape, but transmitting. Files streamed across multiple secured relays, some routed through satellite buoys, others through black market servers I recognized from my Ghost salvage days. It wasn't a backup, it was a handoff. I asked him who he was sending it to. He didn't answer. He just stared at the progress bar. I went to the logbook, not the digital one. That would have been erased already. I checked the analog instruments, backup drives, and deep recorders. Every feed, Tango, Redback, sonar, dome cams, all blank. Wiped clean, erased like we'd never been there, except mine. A habit from my salvage days. I always carry a hard-wired analog camera rig inside the sub. It's not networked, numbered, overwrite, no compression, no encryption. A single roll of archival film locked in a pressurized housing. It was still there, still running. I ejected the cartridge with shaking hands. Inside was everything, the dome, the creature, the collapse. The sharks turning like soldiers under command, the humanoid in cryo, the smile, that smile. The last frame caught the currents folding in like silk. We were never meant to see that place, never meant to come back. I stared at the footage for hours, frame by frame. Each second felt like an accusation, because now I had proof, and that made me dangerous. We surfaced at dawn. The sky was streaked in blood-orange light, the sea calm to calm. No birds, no waves, Just silence, as if the ocean itself was holding its breath. No Coast Guard, no blue site reps, no emergency beacons, no calls over the global marine distress channels. We were ghosts, untouched, unwelcomed. Then came the rotor blades, distant at first, then pounding low across the horizon. A black helicopter with unmarked hull paint and crisp, sterile UN lettering on the side. But those men weren't UN, not by a long shot. They fast-roped down without protocol, weapons drawn, but not aimed, not yet. Movements too precise, faces blank, mechanical. Not one of them introduced themselves. Not one wore a name tag. They went straight for Jonas, dragged him to the rear helipad without a word. No resistance. He didn't protest. He expected them. Then they came for the equipment, all of it. Hard drives, black boxes, drone cores, even the power relays. They swept through the ship like they'd rehearsed it, as if they'd been here before, as if they already knew exactly what we saw. When they reached the sub-bay, I knew what was next. The capsule by analog footage. I don't remember making the decision. It was instinct. Maybe desperation. Maybe guilt. While they were busy with Tango's wrecked frame and Redback's hard drives, I slipped away. I took the capsule and stuffed it into a sealed buoy, a pressure-assistant float designed for emergency beacon drops. I keyed in the GPS ping to a dead frequency, one that I knew wouldn't trip any active logs, and kicked it overboard. It vanished into the waves like a prayer. Then they came for us, not with violence, not yet. Two of them grabbed Dana. She screamed. Another man tried to cuff Celia, but Eric stepped in, weapon raised, eyes wild. He gave me the opening. He shouted something I didn't hear. Maybe run, maybe burn it, maybe nothing at all. But it distracted them long enough for me to jam the buoy release and kill the ship's local surveillance feed. Then everything was black. What followed was fast. Confused, loud, Celia fought. Dana cried. Eric fired once into the ceiling. Not to kill, but to warn. It worked. They backed off. Not scared, but cautious. As if they had orders not to escalate. They radioed the chopper. The lead suit, I never caught his name, told us we were being debriefed. What followed wasn't an interrogation, it was a rewrite. They sat us in separate rooms, asked the same questions over and over. What did you see? Was there a second dome? Did it speak? What did Jonas tell you before the breach? They didn't care about drugs or sharks, or even the rig. They only cared about the figure in the crate. I lied, told them the footage corrupted, that Tango's feed died when the tether snapped, that Redback's cameras were wiped in the EMP spike from the collapse. They looked at me too long, then slid across a stack of documents, legal ones, NDAs, liability waivers, statements of voluntary involvement. I didn't sign. Not right away, but eventually, we all did. It was that or vanish, like Jonas. They released us hours later. No charges, no names, no explanations. Just a warning. A phrase I'll never forget. This never happened. If it did, you're already dead. I've been back a month. The surface air feels thinner now. Lighter. Like it can't hold the weight of what I left down there. I haven't slept more than 2 hours straight since we surfaced. Not for lack of trying, but because the dreams keep pulling me back under. Sometimes I'm in the dome again, staring at the humanoid figure as it opens its eyes, smiling through the cryogel. Other nights, it's the sharks, dozens of them, moving in formation like soldiers, trained, wired, still watching me sometimes. I dream about the current, that impossible movement of water that bent physics itself, a pulse from the deep, like a signal, a message, and I think it's calling me back. Celia vanished 2 weeks after we returned. Her phone disconnected. Her university profile wiped. I tried tracking her through her research logs, but all her oceanic AI work was scrubbed clean, like she never existed. Dana messaged once from Vancouver. Just a short voice note. Ray, I keep hearing the sonar in my sleep. I think it's still broadcasting. I don't think we should have left it behind. Then silence. She deactivated everything the next day. Eric's harder to pin down. I got a postcard. No return address. Just a single phrase in block letters. They're not done. No signature. Jonas is gone. No trace. No obituary. No charges. Just gone. The men who took him weren't government. I checked every agency. UN task forces. Interpol. Private security registries. Nothing. It's like whoever they were, they don't exist on paper, only in shadows. Blue Site Energy still exists, technically, but not under that name. It fractured overnight, split into dozens of shell corporations, Cryomeris Logistics, Trident Global, Xenophos Research, and others, with no websites, no history, and mailing addresses in landlocked countries. They're still operating. Still out there. Still down there. Then there's the sharks. Reports started coming in quietly at first. Local fishers off the Mozambique Channel, a research vessel in the Seychelles, a smuggler crew near Mauritius. All claimed the same thing. Sightings of tiger sharks behaving unnaturally, not aggressive, not random, just observing, larger than average, scarred, with strange indentations near their gills. Like implants. Like what we saw. One crew even swore the sharks followed them for miles, maintaining distance, matching speed, shadowing. Almost like they were herding. But what really keeps me up is the signal. 2 nights ago, I set up a passive sonar net on my private rig. Just a hobby, I told myself. Nothing official. Just trying to let it go. At 3:14 a.m., I caught it. A repeating frequency, low band, submerged in ambient noise, but definitely artificial, too structured to be geological, too rhythmic to be random. I spent hours decoding, cleaning it up. It's a pulse, 3 bursts, a pause, then again, and again, like sonar, or heartbeat. It's coming from below 700 meters, same coordinates, same place. The dome may be gone. The rig may have collapsed, but something is still down there. And now, it knows we're listening. I retrieved the capsule. Someone found it and mailed it back anonymously. No note, no name. The footage was intact. The dome, the creature, the sharks. I leaked it online, anonymously, through encrypted drops. They tried to bury it, but now it's out there, and the ocean doesn't forget. Neither do I.